Dear students, welcome you to session 44, chapter Dividend Policies, Financial Management, 6th semester BCom of Mangalore University. In this session, let us understand the dividend models and in particular, let us learn the Walters model. There are two different kinds of dividend theories or dividend models. The first one is the relevance theory, which states that dividend decisions are important as it affects the value of the firm and the market value of the shares. So these theories consider dividend to be a significant or important because it affects the value of the firm. We have got to study two theories, that is Walters model and Gordon's model. The next one is the irrelevance theory. These theories consider the dividend decision to be irrelevant or insignificant or not important as it does not affect the value of the firm and the market price of the shares. We have got to study a theory called Modigliani and Miller's model known as MM model. So in this session, let us concentrate on the Walters model. The Walters model of dividend theory is given by Professor James E. Walter. According to Walter, the dividend policy of the firm affects the value of the firm. That is why it is relevant or important. He argues that the dividend policy affects the value of an enterprise. So for that purpose, he has classified the firms into three categories. They are the growing firm or a growth firm, normal firm and a declining firm. In order to prove the theory, there are some assumptions made. The assumptions are, the first one, there are only two sources of finance, that is equity and retained earnings. Other forms like the preference shares and debentures do not exist in the capital structure. The return on investment, that is R, that is the return received from the investment made by the company, is constant from year to year. The next one is the cost of capital, that is K, it remains constant throughout. The firm has infinite life, that is the life continues forever. These are the assumptions. Now, the first one is the growth firm. It says that in case of a growing firm, the rate of return on investment is more than the cost of capital. R is greater than K. The return received on investment is more than the cost incurred in getting the finance. So R is greater than K. In case of firms where R is greater than K, we call it as a growth firm. In such firms, it is always better to retain the earnings because they are getting more return than the cost of capital. So it says that it is better for the shareholders to retain the earnings because they may not be able to get such return outside or elsewhere. So the firm should retain all the earnings. So the best dividend payout ratio in case of a growth firm is 0. That is, the market price of the growing companies is maximum only when the dividend payout ratio is 0, which means the retention ratio is 100%. Next comes the declining firm. In case of a declining firm, the rate of return of investment is less than the cost of capital. That is R less than K, which means that the return received by the firm on the investment is less than the cost of financing it. So if the return received is less than the cost of capital, then the shareholders can get better return by investing their money elsewhere. So what the company should do is company should distribute the earnings among the shareholders. So here the best dividend payout ratio is 100% and the retention ratio is 0, which means they should not retain any earnings. They should pay out the entire earnings to the shareholders. The market price of the share is highest when the dividend payout ratio is 100%. Then comes the next type of firm, that is called as the normal firm. In case of a normal firm, the return on investment is equal to the cost of capital. R is equal to K. So under normal firm, it makes no difference whether the surplus is in the hands of the company or in the hands of the shareholders. That is, whether you return your earnings or you pay out the entire earnings, it makes no difference for a normal firm. That is, the company can decide upon the percentage of dividend based on other factors because the market value of the shares of a normal firm, that is when the R is equal to K, it remains the same for any percentage of dividend payout ratio. This is proved with the help of a formula. So the market value of shares under Walters model is determined by the formula P, market price of equity, is equal to dividend per share plus rate of return into earnings per share minus dividend divided by cost of capital whole divided by the cost of capital. Now let us work out or find out the value of shares in case of a growth firm. So you see here the cost of capital is 10%, the return on investment R is equal to 15%. We get more return than the cost of capital. Earnings per share is 10%, 10 rupees. There are different payout ratios 0%, 25%, 50%, 75% and 100%. So 0% we are not paying dividend at all. 25% that is earnings 10 rupees, 25% of that 2.5 rupees. 50% of the earnings that is 5 rupees. 75% of the earning that is 7 rupees 50 paise. 100% of the earnings which means 10 rupees. So full payout ratio. So here the return on investment are 15% and K is 10%, which means it's a growth firm. R is greater than K. Now we'll see here when the dividend payout ratio is 0%, the dividend to be paid is 0. We can see the price is equal to 150 rupees. When dividend payout ratio is 25%, dividend is 2 rupees 50 paise. The market price of the share is equal to 137.5. When the dividend payout ratio is 50%, the dividend amount is 5 rupees and the market price of the share is 125. When the dividend payout ratio is 75%, the dividend amount is 7.5 and the market price is equal to 112.5. And finally, when the dividend payout ratio is 100%, dividend is 10, the market price is equal to 100. Now you can observe here, when the firm is not paying any dividend, the market price is 150. As you start paying dividend, the market price is reducing 137.5, and when you pay 5 rupees, the market price is 125. As you pay 10 rupees, the market price is the least 100. So here it says that dividend policy affects the market price of the shares. So in case of a growth firm where R is greater than K, it is better for the firm not to pay dividends. When you are not paying dividends, what does it mean? We are retaining entire earnings. So dividend payout ratio is 100%, which means retention ratio is dividend payout ratio is 0%, which means the retention ratio is 100%. You are retaining the entire earnings. In such a situation, the market price of the share is the highest. So the optimum dividend payout ratio in case of a growth firm is 0%. That means should not pay dividend at all in case of a growth firm. Now, in case of a growth firm, as the payout ratio increases, the market value of the shares declines. We have seen that. As the payout ratio increases, you can see here the market price declines. The market value is highest when the dividend payout ratio is 0. When we are not paying any dividend, it is highest, that is rupees 150. So the firm will be able to maximize the market value of shares if the firm retains the entire earnings. So firm can get the highest market value if they are retaining the entire earnings, and the best or the optimum payout ratio for a growth firm is 0. That is, they should not pay dividends at all. Now we come to the next firm, that is declining firms. Here you can see the cost of capital is 10% and the return on investment is 8%. So the R return is lesser than the cost of capital. The return what we receive from our investment is less than the cost of capital. So earning per share is same rupees 10 and the dividend payout ratios are same 0, 25, 50%, 75% and 100%. Now in the first case where the dividend payout ratio is 0%, dividend is 0 and the price is equal to 80 rupees. When the dividend payout ratio increases to 25%, the dividend paid is 2 rupees 50 paise and the price is 85. When the dividend payout ratio is 50%, the price is 90 rupees. When the dividend payout ratio is 75% and the price of the shares is 95 rupees, and when the dividend payout ratio is 100%, the price of the share is 100. You can observe here, as the company is paying more dividend, the price of the shares also increases. That is, when company is not paying dividend, it has got the least value, and when the company is paying 100% dividend, the price of the share is the highest in this case. So in case of a declining firm, the firm does not have enough or ample profitable investment opportunities. The firm do not get that much return and the cost of capital. So in this case, as the payout ratio increases, the market price of the share also increases. We can see here, as the payout ratio is increasing, the market price is also increasing. The market value of the share is highest when the firm pays maximum dividend, that is 100% dividend payout ratio. The market value is highest, that in this case rupees 100, when the dividend payout ratio is equal to 100%. So here the optimum payout ratio, that is the best payout ratio for a declining firm. What is a declining firm? When our rate of return is less than the cost of capital. In case of declining firm is 100% payout. It is better to pay the dividends to the shareholders. Next we come to the normal firm where R is equal to K. So in this case, the cost of capital is 10% and the return is equal to 10%. We get the same return as the cost of capital. Our return on investment is equal to the cost of capital. Earning per share is equal to rupees 10. Dividend payout ratio is 0, 25%, 50%, 75% and 100%. Now here you can say when the dividend payout ratio is 0%, dividend is 0, the price of the share is 100. When the dividend payout ratio is 25%, dividend amount is 2.5, price of the share is 100. When the dividend payout ratio changes to 50%, price of the share is 100. When the dividend payout ratio is 75%, price of the share is 100. Again, when the dividend payout ratio is 100%, the dividend amount is 10 and the price of the share is 100. So you can see here the dividend payout ratio is changing from 0% to 100%, but the price of the share remains the same. It is 100. So in case of a normal firm, that is when R is equal to K, the market value of the share is constant. That is, in this case it is rupees 100, irrespective of the dividend payout ratio. What does it signify? It signifies that the market price of the share is not affected by the dividend payout ratio. There is no optimum dividend payout ratio in case of a normal firm. So there is no optimum payout ratio in case of a normal firm, because any dividend payout ratio is optimum because it does not affect the market value of the shares. So in this case we have seen the Walters model of dividend, wherein it classifies the firms into three different types: growing firm, normal firm and declining firm, and with certain assumptions it proves that the market price of the shares is changing in case of a growth firm as well as a declining firm, and the market price of the normal firm do not change with the change in dividend policy. Thank you.